Well, it's now been a little bit, I think, since I've posted a long form video. And I've been very busy these past couple of weeks, so I do apologize already for that. So we got my tea. I want to talk about a certain subject that uh, ruined my life, and ultimately, luckily, doesn't have a grasp on me anymore. But we've gotten past that point, especially, which is very, very nice. And I wanted to talk a little bit about addiction, especially in my life and what happened. Now, addiction for me, I started very young, and it was probably the dumbest thing I probably could have ever have done. But you not knowing better and then being around the wrong people and the wrong groups, in a weird sense, tends to happen that way sometimes. You end up just falling into a demographic you don't understand because you're so young. I was 11 when I first. Now this is, again, before I even go into this. This is nothing like an addiction with any hard substances. This was just an addiction with just weed only. And I want to just go into this, especially how it ruined my life and ultimately how it took away a lot from my learning capability or my trajectory, especially in life. Now, I am the only one to blame for this. I'm not blaming anybody else but myself for this. So, I was 11 when I first started smoking weed. And at first, it was cool. At first, it was fine. It was different. And then, after a very long period of time, or long periods of time, it started to take a hold of me more and more and more, especially the more I got older. I started doing it. Now, I smoked from 11 till, I want to say, till I was like 23 or 24. It was a very long time. And had gotten in trouble since in between that, and things just kind of spiraled out of control and sometimes came into unison, but just mostly it was kind of stupid on my part to even begin it in the first place, because it did lead on to other things, especially, and it did lead me into bad habits altogether, centering around this. Now, as time went on, as I started to get older and I started doing it more and more with friends in my school or girlfriends, and ultimately some people in my family as well, it ended up getting to a point where it just was centered around my whole entire life. And I started basing my habits off of it. Now, this for me was always going to be a bad thing, because now I'm basing my sleep patterns off of it. I'm basing my eating habits off of it. I'm basing my time around it, especially like trying to get, I don't want to say like fix or anything, but it is kind of like I want to get that next high. So it's like I would take tremendous amounts of time to now go and find and seek where I could find weed, because then it was completely illegal. So you had to do things a little bit differently back then. You couldn't just walk into a store and buy some weed. You had to actively seek out some dealer that you probably didn't know or did know, and then trust him with your money to go and get it, or meet him at a specific place and time to then exchange money for it. And it led to me with other bad habits, as like hustling kids in school for money to then spend on it and then go smoke it with other friends that I didn't hang out with in the school that I was going with. I actually eventually ended up hanging out with other kids in another town. But besides the point, the point is that I did some really stupid stuff basing around it, and it took the majority of my time when I was a teenager, because I thought it was the cool thing to do and that what everybody did or everybody wanted to do. But it took a lot of my time. And the habits that were built around it were ultimately super tough to get out of, especially later on into my 20s. I couldn't just stop. It had grasped a hold of me so much so that I couldn't get myself to stop. It was just so imprinted into me that it was just I couldn't shake it. I couldn't shake it by that point. It was too far gone. And I'm telling you, like, how far I was into it was like at most the majority per day with friends, especially back then growing up as a teenager. I must have been smoking probably, I mean, then it was more significant, but now it's probably not significant to people, especially being able to access it so easily now. Is that, like, I used to smoke and scrounge together money every single day from either my friends and also myself. When we would pool money together, we'd also ultimately pretty much buy a quarter a day off someone and smoke the entire thing, a quarter a day, for I don't know how long, until I was pretty much out of school. And then when I had my own job, I could afford it and go seek other people, especially to get it in other ways and other means. So even out of school when I had left, it still had a complete hold against me. And it's kind of like almost like cigarettes. Like, you just want to stop. And every time you buy a pack, you're like, all right, the next pack I'm going to stop. Or the next cigarette I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. It's the same thing for doing it for so long, especially with weed, and having it based around all your patterns, all your habits already, your eating habits, your sleeping habits, etc. All your daily life cycle, and being high pretty much throughout your whole day. Being sober was out of the ordinary. At least for me, it was just like being sober sucked. It was boring, and it was stupid of me to even think that. Thankfully, I'm at a better headspace now, very much better. I'm like, I've seen so much past this, it's ridiculous. But I could not understand then, but I especially do now, looking back and knowing that it took so much time away from my youth and my teenagehood, and especially a good chunk of my 20s, that weed was never, it was because it was never worth it to begin with. It was never worth starting to begin with. And it was ultimately my mistake for even thinking that I could do it for as long as I did without the consequences, without any consequences. It's always a give and take relationship with it. Because it's like, all right, say you can't find it for the day. Because again, there's no active stores to go buy it. You had to go find someone. So when it was out, it was out. And then since you've based your daily habits, it's like you will try anything to get that high again. You will try anything. And that's just off of weed. I couldn't imagine anything else, any harder substance. I couldn't imagine what any harder substance would do to someone else when they don't get it. I couldn't imagine just weed. I mean, like, weed, it's kind of a little bit more manageable, but still, you'll try anything to get high. At least it was for me when I was younger. I was very much an idiot. Especially being that young and keeping to it almost every single day, doing it for a very long time, very long time. And luckily I started to get smarter with it after the fact, but there were some points where it actually went way too far. It helped me go into more depressive states. It was always the main driver of my daily habits. Anywhere you went, you just wanted to smoke beforehand. Any situation, any circumstance, any new people you would meet. Like, you couldn't be high without doing that, without doing something new. And ultimately, the downside of all of that too, especially, is just that it ended up making you more scared about life, because you were so enclosed into feeling high all the time that it closed you off to like proper daily, not even daily, but just proper function in general as a human being. Like, it made you scared to talk to people. You always thought someone noticed you that you were high. And it was probably true. That's probably very, very much true. I mean, obviously, like, even the development of your mind and thinking, you fall into depression a lot easier when you are not smoking. you can't stand to stay in places for a long time, especially you can't like just you can't wait to leave to go and get high again. It's just a it's a very hard existence. It was a very hard existence for me. And I wanted out. I wanted out of it. I wanted out of it a lot. And the only way that I could get out of it was either to try and quit, which I tried so many times to quit, and it just nothing I ever did worked. No matter who I talked to or what I tried, I always fell right back in to smoking again consistently. And I really thought that I really thought that I would never be able to get over it. Honestly, I really never thought I'd be able to get over it. I thought it would have a hold of my life and a hold over me forever. I never thought I would have got out of it. Honestly, I never would have thought of until something actually happened. And the funny thing is that the way that this had happened is that I had gotten arrested. And it wasn't because I did anything. It was because they were looking for someone else and found me with what I ultimately had. Now, the circumstance of where I got arrested was because of a confrontation from a gentleman, and my father had gotten into it. But the cops that ultimately came to my house to serve him and found me with particular items that were illegal. So I was ultimately arrested for that. And it was weird. As much as depressed as I was then, I almost thought of it as a blessing in disguise, because even as crappy as the situation turned out to be, it ultimately was one of the best things that ever happened to me, which is really weird. And you're like, why would getting arrested be the best thing that ever happened to you? Well, because it actually got me away from smoking, because I had to be stuck into a place that I could not leave for a very long time, and then had to go through the court system ultimately and getting probation for what had transpired through that whole entire process. I ended up having a probationary period for about a year. So I had to abide to calling in and doing a probationary segment for an entire year. And that initially kickstarted me getting off pot completely. And it was a blessing to me. At first, it was very hard, but no matter what, I had to conform. And I was so thrilled afterwards that this addiction that had ruled my life for over 10 years at this point, I could leave behind and start a new trajectory. I could start something new. And it was beautiful to me, honestly. Getting in trouble was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. It really did straighten myself up and straighten up my habits, especially. But I'm gonna tell you, especially after those first few nights of quitting, or that first week of quitting, man, it ruined me. It ruined me. I'm not even joking. I have never heard of stories like this, especially with like withdrawal effects of weed, but it happened to me. It happened to me. I had withdrawal effects. Like, I was pretty much bedridden and sick because I based my habits, my eating habits off of it, my sleeping habits off of it, my whole entire daily function off of it for so long, that now not having that, and then going to nothing for like an entire week or so. I mean, we'll never really picking it up ever after that again. It really messed with me. That first week really messed with me. I never had actually really gone a full week without smoking ever since I was 11, which is really kind of crazy to think about. It's so bad. It's so bad. I know. But that's what it was. And being arrested and being on probation was the best thing that actually happened to me, because it forced myself to stop. I was forced to stop. And ultimately, I think back, and it was just a blessing in disguise. It really was. Now, I know a lot of people who do smoke, and it's fine for them, but I can assure you and guarantee that I will never, ever, 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 ever in my life go back at all, ever to weed. I have no desire at all. I like to keep a clear mind. And I've worked so hard on myself, especially to this point, to ever even consider even thinking about it. I don't even drink. I do not smoke. I don't do anything. I've completely killed all my bad habits, except for sometimes I end up finding myself wasting time a little bit. But, you know, obviously I'm not perfect. So there's things that I still need to tweak in my daily routine to be more productive. Definitely. I think we all can agree with that. But for me, any addiction or anything of that nature to alter my mind or I have some draw to it, no. I've killed all that completely inside of me. I have no desire to do anything like that ever again in my life. I like to just be here right now in the sun talking to you. This is what I like best. I find very, very much comfort in this. And I also, and that's the other thing too, is that if I'm going to replace an addiction, then working out was the best thing. Working out is always going to be the best thing. That's kind of my replacement, especially. I mean, these last couple of years, even though I gave up weed back in my 20s, you know, there was still the lingering fact of what led on to that, especially afterwards. Like afterwards, I mean, like even though I quit smoking, and again, and even getting into this, right? Like there were still lingering effects after I even quit smoking weed. Like I picked up cigarettes. Because it was just that smoking feeling. So it was like I wasn't even like completely entirely good after that either. Like it led on to other things, and it's like I completely understand why they did call it back then. Especially they call it the lead-on drug, like the gateway, and it really was. And I mean, like usually it's the gateway for other harder things. But for me, it was just like, since I smoked and had that smoking feeling and just liked that feeling of smoking, it led me on to so many other different paths are centered around smoking altogether. And then getting over that ultimately, it made it completely harder as well. But now I can sit here with a clear mind and a clear conscience and completely 100% tell you that I'm over all of that. And I'm so glad that it's behind me because I'm so ready for the next chapter. Now I've made working out and I've made my better habits my addiction, because I really, really like that more than anything. And it's a blessing for me every single day to either be able to work out or write my thoughts down or make videos. That's where I find the most joy. And at least that, knowing that, especially how long I've come from wherever it started from till now, that's where it led me. And I'm ultimately grateful for it, even though it was a waste of time back then. And even though I hated that period, it was something that had apparently a necessity in my life to learn for myself, to get to this point now, to have these habits now, to know that, yes, I messed up and yes, it's okay. But right now, every single day moving forward, I can go forth and fix my life one day at a time by imprinting better habits and better and ultimately healthy addictions that fulfill me as a man going forth and helping my family, especially helping my family and helping anybody else and my friends, especially around me. So all of that realistically has transpired into a very big positivity. And I'm kind of glad that the outcome is that way, because, you know, I could be standing before you or not, and just be still doing a bunch of stupid things that doesn't make sense to me. You know, and that would be a failure. That would be a failure to me personally in my life. Again, I don't do anything except work out, do my daily discipline. I love to write my thoughts. I do some online courses. I make videos, and I ultimately love it. I love it. I love being boring like that. It gives me so much joy. And I mean, I get to come outside and sit in the sun. This is beautiful. I won't have any other way, honestly. So that for me, at least the addiction led on to the perfect addiction, which is now just being one with life and being out here and living and loving it. Even though working out is it's a struggle. it is a huge struggle in keeping up, but you know, forcing myself to do it ultimately, and especially for so long now, you know, it becomes second nature. It becomes like a second skin. on how my weed addiction and my cigarette addiction became like a second skin, because you do things for so long that it's just so familiar to you that you can't like think of yourself as not doing those things. And that's how I think of myself now, where it's like I've have these new habits and I have these new addictions that ultimately resonate with me as a healthy human being, and that I can never see myself living without going forth into the future. And I know that's a weird concept to grasp, because yes, I will be working out to the day I die. I can't give it up anymore. There's no going back. Because when I started this journey, I was starting from a place of lack in mindset, lack in physical strength. You know, there was just a huge lack in my life. And I'll never ever go back to that, because I want fulfillment. My dream and my goal is fulfillment in my life, to ultimately be more free within myself and be able to do the things that I want to do and be able to see the things that I want to see happen, especially for me in my life and my family. So addiction ruined my life for a very long time. It ruled over me. But I can gladly say now that it led me to the place where I need to be, which is right here, right now. And I'm super thankful for it happening the way that it happened, even if it was a tremendous waste of time. So if I can assure you that if you smoke or if you do anything that's got a hold of you, please try every single possibility to get out of that habitual pattern, because it will grasp hold of you and not let you go until something drastic possibly happens. And again, I'm only saying that out of my own personal experience, because that's how hard it was for me. And another reason is because it's so easy to access these things now, that it doesn't make it okay. It does not make it okay to keep continuing to do that. If you are a normal human being, you have dreams and aspirations that you can go forth and create, and you have to allow yourself to be able to do that, because these other addictions like weed or cigarettes will only hold you back from the self that you're trying to look for. Now, there might be some people that operate perfectly fine off of it. But again, I'm only speaking from my experience, that even as fun as I thought that I was, there was always something in the back of my mind that I can be me without it. There was no need for it, even if I was doing it continuously. I know that there was no need for it. I knew that I'd eventually have to leave it anyways. And plus, again, it's a huge money waster. A huge money waster. I didn't like to smoke my money away. So that's another aspect of it as well. Now, if you've been watching this long, thank you so much. I truly, truly appreciate you. And if this talk today truly resonated with you in some certain way that you can kind of relate to in an aspect of your life, then hit the like and subscribe button, because I would love to see you on the next talk. Thank you guys so much. Peace.